Okay, so we just read The Telltale Heart by Edgar Allan Poe. So now let's try to look deeper into the elements of the story. An internal conflict is a battle within a character's own mind. Like, how did you decide what you wanted to eat for lunch today? Did you think about it in your own head, or did you say it out loud?
I said it in my head.
So that was an internal conflict.
Yeah.
Can anyone think of any examples of an internal conflict that you might have daily?
What am I going to wear today?
What am I going to eat?
Those are all great examples of internal conflicts. An example of an internal conflict in the story is, why would they not be gone? I paced the floor to and fro with heavy strides, as if excited to fury by the observations of the men. But the noise steadily increased. Oh God, what could I do? This is an internal conflict, because the argument the character is having is happening in his own head. He didn't say any of this out loud. An external conflict is a battle between a character in the story and an outside force. An outside force can include anything from another character to nature. For example, extreme heat is an external force. So, what's an external force an external conflict in Harry Potter?
Voldemort.
Right, he who shall not be named. That's a great external conflict. Harry Potter and Voldemort. Good. An external conflict in the story of The Telltale Heart is, and I did this for 7 long nights, every night just at midnight, but I found the eye always closed, and so it was impossible to do the work. This is an external conflict between the main character and time. Harry Potter had a conflict with a person, and Poe's main character had a conflict with time. Both of the examples are external conflicts, even though they seem a little bit different. An overstatement is when a statement is exaggerated. Like, has anyone ever heard their friend say, I have a ton of homework?
All the time.
Yeah, a lot.
So this is an example of an overstatement because literally they do not have a ton of homework, as in 2,000 pounds of homework. So can anyone think of any examples of an overstatement?
I'm starving.
Right, that's a great example because literally you're not starving. That would be an overstatement. An example of overstatement in the story is, I kept quite still and said nothing. For a whole hour I did not move a muscle. This is an example of overstatement because it's impossible not to move a muscle. The author is just trying to convey that the main character kept very, very still. An understatement is used to make a fact of the situation seem less important than it really is. Saying it only rained for a little after realizing your house flooded would be an understatement. Can anyone think of any understatements?
That ice cream was okay, even when it was really good.
Right, so if you just had the best meal of your life and you went home and said, nah, it was okay, that would be an understatement. An example of understatement in the story is, I made up my mind to take the life of the old man, and thus rid myself of the eye forever. Now at this point, you fancy me mad. This is an understatement. At this point in the story, the reader begins to think that the main character is much more than mad. This is a point in the story where the reader understands that the main character decides to kill the old man. So the reader really understands that, man, this character is actually going to take the life of the old man. So really, mad isn't the word that I would choose. So this is an understatement. A theme is the main thought or idea in the story. A theme is the idea the author is trying to get across to his or her readers. A theme is usually an abstract idea that is reoccurring. So what is the theme of The Telltale Heart?
Guilt.
Guilt, right. Edgar Allan Poe is trying to convince the readers that the main character feels guilty for killing the old man. There are many parts in the story where Poe wants the reader to understand that even though the main character seems crazy, he still feels remorse. There's a lot of evidence of guilt being the theme of the story. So Poe goes over at many points in the story. In the beginning of the story, the main character says, "I love the old man. He never wronged me. He had never given me insult. For his gold I had no desire. I think it was his eye." This was one of the reasons that the main character had to be guilty, because Poe explains that the main character really had no reason to kill the old man other than he thought he was haunted by the eye. In the middle of the story says, "Meantime, the hellish tattoo of the heart increased. It grew quicker and quicker, louder and louder every instant. The old man's terror must have been extreme. It grew louder, I say, every moment. Do you mark me well? I have told you that I am nervous, so I am." Poe is trying to convey through this quote that the thought of killing the man did not bring the main character any comfort. It made him nervous. This last quote is when the main character could take the guilt no longer, and he had to confess. "Villains," I shrieked, "dissemble no more. I admit the deed. Tear up the planks. Here it is, the beating of his hideous heart." Symbolism. A symbol can be anything that stands for something else. Uncle Sam is often used to symbolize America. Often in literature, symbols have a deeper meaning. Can anybody think of any symbols?
Cross.
A cross is a symbol, usually for Christianity.
The stars on the flag.
Right,
Colors on flags.
right, those are all good symbols. Like, what does red and yellow symbolize in Harry Potter?
Gryffindor.
Right, Gryffindor. What does Harry Potter's sky symbolize?
Bravery. Defeating Voldemort.
Right. Those are all good symbols. So what does the beating heart symbolize in the Telltale Heart?
His guilt.
His guilt growing stronger and stronger.
Right, guilt. This quote is a really good example of the beating heart symbolizing guilt. "Almighty God, no, they heard, they suspected, they knew. They are making a mockery of my horror. This I thought, and this I think. But anything was better than this agony. Anything was more tolerable than this decision. I could bear those hypocritical smiles no longer. I felt that I must scream or die, and now, again, hark, louder, louder, louder." So throughout the story, like you said, the beating heart symbolizes guilt. This contributes to the theme and creates suspense when building up to the end, where the main character can no longer take the guilt. And in the end he says, "Villains," I shrieked, "dissemble no more. I admit the deed. Tear up the planks. Here it is, the beating of his hideous heart." Symbols can often be recurring and help move a story along. This story would mean a lot less without the beating heart. Like, what kind of story would Harry Potter be without the scar?
Boring.
Right. It wouldn't be much of a story. You wouldn't know, nobody would know that he was the one who lived. And you wouldn't be able to dress up on Halloween with just the scar. It wouldn't mean much. So symbols really help move along in the story. And that's the end of our PowerPoint.
Yay!